My name is Johanna Fernandez. I'm a professor of history at Baruch College of the City University of New York. I'm also the writer and producer of Justice on Trial, the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal. And for those of you who have not followed up on recent developments in the case, we have recently won an incredible victory, probably the only civil rights victory of the last 30 or so years, maybe the only victory since the civil rights movement around the issue of race. Essentially, Mumia's death sentence was thrown out not long ago, and he has been released out of death row into general population, where he will be serving a lifetime of imprisonment without parole. Now, the fact that he has been released from death row is a victory because the state for 30 years attempted to execute him and were not successful. He was due to be executed 3 times during the 1990s, and on each of those occasions, an international movement stopped his execution. And now the state and the Supreme Court and federal judges have ruled his death sentence unconstitutional. So essentially, we've been told that Mumia should never have gotten the death penalty. Now, part of what we discussed today at the panel on Mumia is an event that's happening on April 24th. The fact that Mumia was taken out of death row, the fact that his death row sentence was thrown out, has captured the imagination of people around the world. And people are asking the question, well, if we succeeded at getting his death sentence overturned, couldn't we win the battle to release him from prison? With that in mind, we are going to occupy the Justice Department on April 24th, which is also the date of his birthday. And we want to tie the issue of Mumia to the issue of mass incarceration, to immigrant detention, to the crisis of solitary confinement and torture in American society. We are clamoring, and we're going to go to DC, and we're going to say that we want jobs, we want education, we want dignity, we want health care and not jails. We're also going to ask for the release of all political prisoners, including Private Bradley Manning. And we're going to say that we are all Mumia, we are all prisoners, we are all occupiers, and we are all Palestinians. So we want people to come out and bring their signs and bring their issue and make the demonstration reflect their demands, their issues, their interests. We're occupying the Justice Department because there was a lot of police corruption in the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal, and in fact there's a precedent of a civil rights investigation on the part of the Department of Justice in Philadelphia. In 1979, the Department of Justice investigated the police department in Philadelphia, the first time this had ever happened in the history of the United States, and they concluded that the conduct of the police was so marginal and so out of line with the law, its treatment of Black and Latino defendants and prisoners so violent and so criminal that, quote, it shocks the conscience. Those are the same words of the civil rights investigation. And so part of what we're going to tell Eric Holder is that the problem with the civil rights investigation was that it put the police officers who were involved in corruption and violent behavior in prison, but it failed to address the prisoners that those corrupt cops put in jail. Mumia is one of those prisoners. 15 of the 35 police officers involved in collecting evidence in Mumia's case went down in this FBI probe. But the jury that heard Mumia's case did not know that these police officers were being investigated and that they were going to actually be convicted for the exact same violations that we see in Mumia's case, police corruption, and tampering with evidence to obtain a conviction. I'm also, as I said previously, the writer and producer for Justice on Trial, the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal, a documentary which features new evidence that points to Mumia's innocence, that illustrates the ways in which the police tampered with evidence to obtain a conviction. The film also explores probably the most important thing you have to know about this case, which is that there was a fourth person at the scene of the crime, and the presence of that fourth person was suppressed at trial by prosecutor McGill. So our film also humanizes Mumia. Mumia is often deified and put on a pedestal, but the fact is that he's a human being, an extraordinary one, but he's a human being like all of us. He has a mother and a father and a sister and a wife and children whom he's not been able to have a relationship with in over 30 years. So the film also attempts to look into or explore Mumia the human being. And of course, we make an argument about the broader crisis of mass incarceration in American society. And we argue that this is the most important civil rights problem of our time.
Just in terms of being present at the Love Forum, you're talking with a lot of people, what you're feeling about the impact of that, the effectiveness of what kind of gathering.
The energy at Left Forum is intoxicating. This is the largest gathering in the history of the Left Forum. It's bigger than last year by a third, and the hallways, the elevators, the meeting rooms are just bubbling with debate and discussion about the possibilities for this next period ahead of us. People are inquiring and asking questions about alternatives. If we oppose capitalism, what system are we going to replace it with? I was on a panel on what way forward for the Black left. There was a conversation there about the origins of racism and its root causes. So this is really an incredible gathering of people in this country who are fed up with business as usual and who actually want to fight and stand up and dream of a better world.